Problems we had with technology earlier on. Let's try that again, all right? The Gauteng MEC is back on the line with us to discuss the department's signing of a resolution to committing to work with SANTACO and GNTA with regards to working on combating the spread of COVID-19 with enhancing and track and tracing interventions, among other things, within taxis. MEC, good afternoon again. Let's start from where we were. In fact, you were taking us through what this agreement entails and really the terms of that resolution between yourselves, SANTACO and GNTA, and what it's really all about, essentially.
So, once more, thank you very much. The point I was making was that one of the weaknesses that we have identified in our program to fight the spread of COVID-19 in public transport has been lack of track and tracing capability in case of those people that might have used, say, a taxi, and we have no way, in case they test positive, of tracing who else in the transport was exposed to that particular commuter. So the resolution does two things. In the first place, it says, let us have in each and every taxi a display of the vehicle registration number. And the driver and the marshals will encourage everybody to take that registration number of the vehicle in which they are traveling. Secondly, the resolution says that every taxi in the province will keep a passenger list. And in the passenger list, if we're not interested in many things, but their cell phone number, so that when any person who was in that vehicle tests positive, we can be able to track who else was exposed to this particular commuter who was in that vehicle, and they can be immediately contacted so that they can self-isolate and know that they were exposed to a person who has tested positive. This is also important for the drivers. Taxi drivers who drive so many people per day, they also need to self-isolate once it is said that somebody has tested positive. That could also talk to proper disinfection of the vehicle, because we now know, like it happens with buildings, with shops, once somebody tests positive, there are drastic measures taken to make sure that the disease is managed. So currently, that is not in place. One taxi can carry multiple people who test positive later, exposing so many people, the drivers, without any capability of track and trace. So we believe this will have its own technical issues. People may be fast in a rush, but we will also make sure that the person who records the commuters, there's no circulation of a book or a pen, although there will be sanitizers, but there will be one person at a taxi rank or one person inside the vehicle who take the details. Yeah. This will go a long way to deal with track and trace, because we know the fight against COVID-19 is about track and trace those who have been exposed to the risk.
Yeah. I have a two-pronged question, MEC. Firstly, just about the sort of problems that have been identified since taxis started to fill up 100% capacity. And then the other question is regarding the perception that, you know, the taxi industry is autonomous and they sort of do as they will. You'll remember that there was this media briefing in which they were declaring that they will be filling up taxis regardless of what the various transport departments have to say. I mean, there is that perception that has been created that they sort of work the way that they want to. What is your relationship with the Gauteng taxi associations and the various taxi bosses that don't want to be called bosses, taxi leadership, perhaps in the province? If you can let us in on that.
So firstly, in the province, we have built a very good relationship with the taxi industry. In the summit we had last year, since then, the relationship has been good. And I can assure you that in the province, we have been working very well with the taxi industry. There are examples and clear cases that I can give when it comes to how we have managed to deal with complex and difficult issues. We have just recently introduced a program of setting up taxi rank committees in which we'll be able to deal with the spread of COVID-19. We have agreed on an app supported by the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. And those two programs indicate the extent to which we are working together. We have signed a resolution that actually seeks to empower provincial government to intervene in internal fights, place associations and administration. We've signed a resolution that says we must remove collection of money which borders on money laundering. So there are many examples. When there was an increase of about 130%, we discussed, that was dealt with. So the perception that, and I'm happy you're calling it a perception, because at the end, that's what it is. Government is not scared of the taxi industry. There is no scientific evidence to back up that. All what government did was to appreciate one thing and one thing only, that the taxi industry is not subsidized. Historically, it has not benefited in so many ways from programs of government. Of course, there are those positive aspects like the taxi recapitalization, but government has acknowledged the historic, deeper problems of the taxi industry. And all what government did was to try to meet the taxi halfway, to subject 100% loading capacity to scientific determination, to experts. And to that extent, we must also not forget the taxi industry historically, left to itself, has developed a culture of the law of the jungle, the rule by the barrel of the gun, using violence and intimidation, and all these aspects is what has evolved over time. And in dealing with them, in managing them, and in trying to negotiate, make tactical compromises, a perception perhaps was created that government gives in to the taxi industry. I can assure you there is no single basis or fact, scientific, that can back up the claim that government is scared of the taxi industry. That is not the case.
All right, MEC, thank you very much for giving us your time and being patient with those issues we were having earlier on with technology. We appreciate your time, MEC Mamabolo, as always. That's MEC for Gauteng, MEC for Transport, Jacob Mamabolo, speaking to us about those efforts to curb the spread of COVID-19 and agreements of sorts with SANTACO, GNTA and the Department of Transport then in Gauteng.